Well, today we're talking about training guiding and leading tasks for service dogs. These tasks are all about safe navigation from point A to point B. Guiding tasks are generally associated with guide dogs working with their blind or visually impaired handler, while leading or navigation tasks are often associated with other disabilities, like if you're having a dissociative episode and you need your dog to find an exit for you. One of the questions I get asked frequently as a guide dog and service dog trainer is how to train obstacle avoidance so that the handler doesn't bump, run into, or trip over obstacles while the dog is performing guiding or leading tasks. But this question is a little more complicated than you might think. So let's talk about why this is a complicated skill to teach, what foundations your service dog will need, and then I'll show you how to train it. Hi, I'm Laura from Dog.eu, and I'm a certified guide dog mobility instructor, service dog trainer, and trick trainer. And today I'll be showing you how to train obstacle avoidance for guiding and leading tasks. I'll be showing you this skill with my dad's guide dog, Lyric. Lyric is an 8-year-old seasoned guide dog, and normally I wouldn't be working someone else's finished guide dog, but I'm actually keeping her in shape while my dad recovers from surgery over the next few months. I'm working her every other week or so just to make sure she maintains her skills and gets to get out and do some work because she really loves to work. Okay, so let's talk about obstacle avoidance. The reason it's hard to talk about this part of guide work in isolation is that there are foundational concepts that the dog needs to know prior to training obstacle avoidance. Because inherent in avoiding an obstacle is the return to the straight line. So to go around something, you must first be heading on a path. And I think this is the part that people often miss, which in turn confuses the dog. You see, guide dogs travel in straight lines, and they need to have a firm grasp on straight line travel before you consider teaching them to diverge from that straight line. They also need to understand how to put consistent tension into the handle so that the handler can feel their movement without dragging or inconsistent pacing. So when you're training a guide dog, you spend a significant amount of time in the first few weeks of training teaching them to walk in a straight line and to drive up to the curbs. I want you to think of the curb as a front paw target that your dog is steadily and gently pulling you towards. Guide work is a series of targets that your dog needs to hit to keep the handler safe. So to train this straight line to curb behavior, you do it first on leash, marking and rewarding at curbs, and then once they understand that if they walk up to a curb and stop, they'll get reinforced, then you pick up the handle and have them guide to the curb. But it starts with first patterning the straight line. And when you pattern that straight line, you do so first on thin sidewalks. Sidewalks where the line of travel is clear and not significantly wider than the space the human and the dog team take up. As the dog gets further in training, you progress to wider sidewalks, but it all starts on thin sidewalks where it's easy for the dog to be successful. During this time in training, you also teach them left and right turns. Lyric left. Good girl. Awesome work. Awesome work. But it's important to note here that guide dogs do not round curbs. They maintain a straight line to the curb, and once they hit that curb, only then do you do a formal left or right to change directions. So for example, in this clip, I want to cross the road and then take a left, but I'm not going to just cross and immediately turn. She's going to cross the road, she's going to stop at the curb, I'm going to check for the curb with my foot, then I'm going to tell her forward, get her out of the road, halt her, and take a formal left. So once all this is under their belt and they're driving up to the curb, excited to earn their reinforcement, then able to cross the street and stop at that next curb, only after those concepts are solidified with the dog do we start obstacle avoidance. And hey y'all, this is the part of the video where I ask you to show that you're getting value from this video by booping that like button. Doing so positively reinforces me for making these videos and allows me to make more free and low-cost videos. So boop away and I'll get back to the training. There's a lot of obstacles out there in the world. Those could be holes in the sidewalk, construction, people moving into your straight line path, or overhead obstacles that might hit your head. When I was learning to train guide dogs, we started training obstacle avoidance with trash cans. We did this because they were large, solid obstacles, easy to move into the path of travel, and they would appear right where we needed to use them, right at the end of the driveway, once a week on a predictable day. Once a dog could master trash cans, then and only then would we move on to other types of obstacles. So how do we train a dog to avoid these obstacles? A few decades back, it used to be that you'd hit into the obstacle, in essence positively punishing the dog for hitting the obstacle, until the dog avoided the obstacle altogether. However, training a dog in this way can cause fallout and even fear when a dog is near an obstacle, especially with softer dogs, which isn't ideal for service work. Fortunately, training has evolved away from this sort of method during the knowledge acquisition phase for the dog, and I learned obstacle avoidance by backchaining the behavior. Backchaining is essentially when you teach the last behavior in the behavior chain first, and then the second to last, and so on until you reach the first behavior in the chain. I'll demo this method of training next so that you can see how it works. What's nice about this method is that the dog has a learning history that includes practicing the end behavior many times, making the final goal feel easy even as new steps are added. So to start, you line up an obstacle in your dog's path. Ideally, it's a whole square block full of obstacles so you can practice one after the other. You then drop the handle and leave the straight line with the dog on the leash, not the harness handle. Essentially, you're doing the work for the dog. Now this is where understanding of straight line travel is so important. You're going to pattern a few times just walking around the obstacle and returning to the straight line on leash. Then you'll start picking up the handle just one step from the return to the straight line and cue forward. Then you'll have the dog complete the return to the straight line, mark, and reward. And you're going to do this a ton of times. Then as you progress, you'll now walk them around and pick up the handle 2 steps from the straight line, then 3 steps. As you progress through the training, you'll end up dropping the handle and leaving the straight line and only taking 1 step on leash before picking up the handle and letting the dog guide around. Finally, the dog will be able to leave the straight line on their own without you helping to leave the line on leash. In guide dog training, we do this with the same easily recognizable obstacles, so the trash cans, but it wasn't trash day in my neighborhood because it was a Saturday, so I had to set up my own obstacles. Once the dog understands the skill, we do that over and over again for a few weeks so that while the setting was changing, the obstacles didn't. So we'd rotate neighborhoods that we were training in. Then and only then do we start adding in different obstacles, as well as varying the setups and training for other scenarios like overhead obstacles, tripping hazards, people on sidewalks, or tight spaces where the dog might need to stop first. It's worth noting here that when you set up obstacles, you want it to be clear at first which direction the dog should take, as you'll be patterning one direction first before patterning the other direction. So either the dog leaves the line to the left or to the right around the obstacle. Generally, putting the dog closest to the obstacle keeps the handler safer from accidentally bumping it. However, we tend to teach the more challenging direction, so leaving the line to the left, dog on left, first, to emphasize the importance of putting distance between the team and the obstacle. I'd also generally recommend starting with obstacles set up in such a way that the dog is moving away from the road at first, as this is the preferred choice generally in residential areas. Guide dog work is a long process where sequence of training is critically important and skills continually build on other skills. In the future, if my next dog is up for it and physically cleared to do so, I'm hoping to make a series around training guide work. But only if that interests y'all because it's a pretty niche topic, so please let me know if you're interested in those videos down in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about guide work, I actually have a video over on Patreon right now showing more guide work with Lyric, specifically going over the skills required for country travel, or travel when there isn't a sidewalk present for the dog to follow. So if that interests you, or you just want to financially support the channel and the work that I'm doing here, head on over to patreon.com/doggyou to join for as little as $4, where you'll gain access to my new puppy quick start guide, as well as 150 other Patreon exclusive videos. I hope to see you there. Oh, and there's also a free membership option. So if you want to be the first to know news about when my new puppy is coming, you can sign up for free and get access to that post right now. Literally, it's up right now, so go check it out. And if you like this video, you'll probably like this video too, so you should check on it now. You'll have an awesome day and happy training.